I never thought I'd be that guy. You know, the one who discovers his whole life was a lie. But there I was, standing in my own kitchen at 2 in the morning, staring at my wife's laptop screen, and everything I believed about my marriage crumbled in an instant. My name is Bob Patterson, and this is the story of how the woman I loved destroyed my family and tried to steal everything we had built over 3 generations. But it's also the story of how she finally got what she deserved. It started on a Tuesday night. My wife Jennifer had fallen asleep on the couch again, her laptop still open on the coffee table. She'd been working late a lot lately, or at least that's what she told me. I was just going to close it and plug it in to charge. That's when I saw the email thread on her screen. The subject line read, "Patterson Property, Final Transfer Documents." My blood ran cold. The Patterson property was my family's legacy, a beautiful 12-acre estate in upstate New York that my grandfather built in 1952. My father grew up there. I grew up there. And when Dad got sick last year, he made me promise to keep it in the family forever. But why was Jennifer getting emails about it? I wasn't copied on anything. My hands were shaking as I started reading. The email was from someone named Richard Moss, a real estate attorney I'd never heard of. And what I read made my stomach drop. "Jennifer, as discussed, once your husband signs the power of attorney documents for his father's care, we can proceed with the property transfer. The buyers are eager to close by month's end. Your commission will be deposited within 48 hours of closing." Commission? Buyers? I read it again, certain I'd misunderstood. But no, it was clear as day. My wife was trying to sell my family's property, and I wasn't supposed to know about it. To understand how deep this betrayal cut, you need to know what that property meant to my family. My grandfather, William Patterson, bought that land when he came back from the Korean War. He was a carpenter by trade, and he built our family home with his own 2 hands, board by board, nail by nail. He planted an orchard there, apple trees mostly, but also some cherry and peach trees. Every fall, the whole family would gather for harvest. Those are some of my best childhood memories. The smell of apple pie baking, my grandmother's laugh, my father teaching me how to pick fruit without bruising it. When my grandfather passed in 1998, he left the property to my father, Robert. Dad kept the tradition alive. Even when he got older and the upkeep became harder, he refused to let it go. That land was his connection to his father, to his past, to everything that mattered. I met Jennifer 8 years ago at a friend's wedding. She was beautiful, charming, and she seemed genuinely interested in my family's stories. I told her all about the Patterson property on our 3rd date. I even took her there to meet my parents on our 4th. She loved it, or so I thought. She'd walk through the orchard with my mom, help Dad with yard work, and talk about how lucky I was to have such deep roots. When we got married 3 years ago, we had the reception right there on that property, under the apple trees. After the wedding, Jennifer started working in real estate. She said she wanted to help families find their dream homes, the way my grandfather had built ours. I was proud of her ambition. I supported her late nights and weekend showings. I trusted her completely. Then last March, Dad got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. It progressed fast, faster than any of us expected. By June, he couldn't remember my name half the time. By August, Mom couldn't handle his care alone anymore. We had to make the heartbreaking decision to move him into a memory care facility. That's when Jennifer suggested I get power of attorney. "Someone needs to handle his finances and medical decisions," she said. "Your mom is too emotional. It should be you." She was right, of course, or so I thought. I signed the papers she put in front of me. I didn't read every page. Why would I? She was my wife. She was trying to help. What a fool I was. I couldn't move from that laptop screen. I read the email again. Then I scrolled up and saw there were dozens more. Months of correspondence I knew nothing about. My wife had been planning this since July, just weeks after Dad's diagnosis. There were emails to real estate agents, to this Richard Moss attorney, and to someone identified only as G. The messages to GT were different, more personal, more familiar. Can't wait to see you this weekend. Bob thinks I'm at a conference in Boston. We'll finally have time alone. My heart stopped. I scrolled further. There were dozens of messages like this going back almost 2 years. She'd been having an affair. While I was working 60-hour weeks to pay for Dad's medical care, while I was grieving my father's lost mind, she was cheating on me. And she was using my grief, my distraction, to steal my family's property. I wanted to wake her up right then. Confront her, scream at her, but something stopped me. A cold, clear voice in my head that said, if you show your cards now, she'll cover her tracks. She'll lie. She'll make you seem crazy. So instead, I did something I never thought I'd do. I started gathering evidence. I forwarded emails to my personal account. I took photos of the screen with my phone. I went through every folder, every document, every message I could find. What I discovered was worse than I imagined. The power of attorney documents Jennifer had me sign weren't just for Dad's medical care. Hidden in the legal language was authorization for property transfers. She'd tricked me into giving her the power to sell the Patterson estate without my explicit consent. The buyers were a development company called Horizon Properties LLC. They planned to bulldoze everything and build luxury condos. My grandfather's house, the orchard, all of it would be gone. And Jennifer would walk away with a $200,000 commission. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, my mind racing, planning. Jennifer had been scheming for months. Now it was my turn. The next morning, I did the hardest acting job of my life. I made coffee like always. I kissed Jennifer goodbye when she left for work. I smiled. I played the role of the oblivious husband perfectly. But inside, I was building a strategy. I couldn't just confront her. She had legal documents with my signature. She had lawyers involved. If I wasn't careful, I could lose everything and she'd still get away with it. My first call was to my own lawyer, Martin Henderson. Martin had handled my family's legal matters for 20 years. He knew my father, knew the property, knew what it meant to us. Bob, he said when I explained the situation, you need to understand something. She has a power of attorney with your signature. That document is legal. Even if she tricked you, proving that in court will be difficult. So she wins? I asked, feeling desperate. I didn't say that, Martin replied carefully. But you need to be smart. Document everything. Don't confront her yet. And whatever you do, don't let her know you're onto her. I followed his advice. For the next week, I played the perfect, clueless husband. I asked Jennifer about her day. I didn't mention the property. I acted like nothing was wrong. But every night after she fell asleep, I went through her laptop again. I learned more about her lover, whose full name was Gregory Turner. He was a real estate developer, the owner of Horizon Properties LLC. This wasn't just an affair. It was a business partnership. They were stealing my family's legacy together. I found text messages where they laughed about me, where Jennifer called me too trusting and easy to manipulate, where Gregory said once they had the property, they'd be set for life. Reading those messages was like being stabbed over and over. But I saved every single one, every laugh, every cruel word, every piece of evidence. A week into my investigation, I visited Mom at her apartment. She'd moved to a smaller place near Dad's facility so she could visit him daily. She looked tired, older than her 63 years. This whole situation with Dad had aged her. "How's Jennifer?" she asked, like she always did. I almost told her everything right then. But I didn't want to burden her with this on top of everything else. "She's fine, Mom. Busy with work." Mom nodded, but something flickered across her face. Doubt, maybe, or concern. "Bob," she said carefully, "has Jennifer talked to you about the property?" My heart started pounding. "What do you mean?" "She came by last week, said she had some papers for me to sign. Something about estate planning, making sure everything was organized for when." She trailed off, unable to say the words. "For when Dad dies." "Did you sign anything?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "No," Mom said. Something felt off about it. She was pushing too hard, you know, and she didn't want me to have my own lawyer look at the papers first. So I told her I needed time to think. I felt relief flood through me. Mom, don't sign anything Jennifer gives you. Not without running it by Martin first, okay? She looked at me closely. Bob, what's going on? I couldn't hide it anymore. I told her everything. The emails, the affair, the plan to sell the property, all of it. I watched my mother's face go through shock, anger, grief, and finally, a cold determination I'd never seen before. That house is your father's heart, she said quietly. It's his connection to his father, to himself. Even though his mind is going when we sit on that porch, sometimes I see a flicker of recognition in his eyes, like he knows he's home. Her voice hardened. We're not letting her take that from him. Or from you. What do we need to do? With Mom's help, I started building an airtight case. We went to Martin together and laid out everything I'd found. Martin brought in a colleague who specialized in elder fraud and financial crimes. This is more common than you'd think. The specialist, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen, told us. Family members or spouses exploiting power of attorney to steal property or money from elderly relatives. The good news is, if we can prove Jennifer intended to defraud both your father and you, we can stop this and possibly press charges. Patricia laid out our strategy. First, we needed to document every instance of Jennifer's deception. Second, we needed to prove the power of attorney was obtained under false pretenses. Third, we needed to trace the connection between Jennifer and Gregory Turner to show this was a coordinated scheme. And most importantly, Patricia said, we need to do all this before any sale goes through. Once money changes hands and deeds are transferred, getting it back becomes much, much harder. I felt the weight of a ticking clock. According to Jennifer's emails, closing was scheduled for 3 weeks away. We had to move fast. I hired a private investigator named Marcus Webb. Within days, Marcus had documented multiple meetings between Jennifer and Gregory at hotels, restaurants, his condo. He had photos, credit card receipts, everything we needed to prove the affair. But more importantly, Marcus dug into Gregory's business history. Turned out Horizon Properties LLC had a pattern. They'd buy properties at below-market prices, often from elderly owners or their confused family members, then flip them for massive profits. Gregory had been sued twice before for predatory practices, but the cases had been settled out of court. This guy's a professional vulture, Marcus told me, and your wife picked the perfect partner in crime. Meanwhile, I kept playing my role at home. It was torture. Every time Jennifer kissed me, I wanted to pull away. Every time she asked about my day, I wanted to scream the truth at her. But I smiled, I nodded. I waited. 2 weeks before the scheduled closing, Martin came up with a plan. It was risky, but it might give us exactly what we needed. We need Jennifer to incriminate herself on record, he explained. I'm going to send her a letter as your father's estate attorney, raising concerns about the sale. I'll request a meeting with both of you to discuss the transaction. Won't that tip her off? I asked. Probably, Martin admitted. But here's the thing. She'll think she can talk her way out of it. She's been getting away with this for months. She's confident, overconfident, and overconfidence makes people slip up. The letter went out on a Thursday. By Friday evening, Jennifer was furious. Your father's lawyer is trying to interfere with the property sale, she told me at dinner, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. He's asking for a meeting. He's questioning the power of attorney documents. I played dumb. What property sale? She blinked. For just a second, I saw panic flash across her face. Then she recovered, her expression smoothing into practiced concern. Oh, honey, I didn't want to burden you with this while you're dealing with your dad's illness, she said, reaching across the table to take my hand. But I've been exploring options for the estate. The property taxes are so high, and with your dad's medical bills, I thought maybe we should consider selling. The money could help with his care. It was a good lie, almost believable. If I hadn't seen those emails, hadn't known about Gregory, I might have even been grateful for her concern. I don't want to sell, I said simply. That property is Dad's legacy. It stays in the family. Her grip on my hand tightened slightly. Her smile stayed in place, but her eyes went cold. Bob, sometimes we have to make hard choices. The property is just land. Your father doesn't even remember it anymore. He remembers more than you think, I said. And even if he didn't, I made him a promise. We're not selling. The meeting at Martin's office was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Jennifer had 3 days to prepare, and I could tell she was working overtime to cover her tracks. She was on her phone constantly, having hushed conversations in other rooms. She met with clients at odd hours, and she kept trying to convince me that selling was the right choice. Think about it rationally, she'd say. We could pay off the mortgage on our house. Maybe finally take that trip to Europe you always talk about. Your mom wouldn't have to worry about money for your dad's care. Each time I'd nod non-committally. Let's see what Martin says at the meeting. When Tuesday arrived, we walked into Martin's conference room together. But Jennifer wasn't expecting who else would be there. Martin sat at the head of the table. Patricia Chen sat to his right. My mother sat to his left. And in the corner, a court reporter was set up to record everything. Jennifer's face went pale. What is this? I thought this was just a quick meeting to clear up some confusion. Please sit down, Mrs. Patterson, Martin said formally. This is a formal inquiry into the proposed sale of the Patterson family property. As the estate attorney for Robert Patterson, I have concerns about the circumstances surrounding this transaction. Jennifer sat slowly, her eyes darting around the room. I could see her mind working, calculating her next move. Martin started with basic questions. When did Jennifer first propose selling the property? Who initiated contact with the buyers? What was her relationship with Horizon Properties LLC? She answered carefully at first, sticking to her story about trying to help with medical expenses. But then Patricia took over. Mrs. Patterson, are you aware that Horizon Properties is owned by Gregory Turner? Yes, I think that's the owner's name. And are you aware that you've met with Mr. Turner 37 times in the past 6 months? Jennifer's face flushed. I don't see how that's relevant. I meet with many people in my line of work, including overnight stays at hotels. Patricia continued coolly. Including romantic dinners? Including text messages where you discuss your marriage and your plans for the property sale proceeds? The room went silent. Jennifer looked at me, and for the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. Bob, Jennifer said, her voice shaking. I can explain. No, I interrupted, my voice steady despite the rage boiling inside me. You can't because I already know everything. I nodded to Martin, who slid a thick folder across the table to Jennifer. That contains copies of every email, text message, and financial document related to your scheme. We know about Gregory. We know about the affair. We know you tricked me into signing power of attorney documents that included property transfer authorization. We know you tried to get my mother to sign additional paperwork last week. We know everything. Jennifer opened the folder, her hands trembling. As she flipped through the pages, I watched the blood drain from her face. She recognized her own words, her own emails, her own lies printed in black and white. How did you... She started, then stopped. It didn't matter how. What mattered was that she'd been caught. Did you ever love me? I asked, and I hated how my voice cracked on that question. Or was I always just a mark? A way to get to the property? She didn't answer. She just sat there, staring at the evidence of her betrayal. My mother spoke then, her voice like ice. You sat at our dinner table. You laughed with us. You pretended to care about my husband while he was losing his mind. And the whole time, you were planning to steal from him. From us. How does someone become so heartless? You don't understand, Jennifer finally said, but her voice was weak. Gregory and I, we had plans. That property is worth millions. We were going to steal it, Patricia finished. Let's call it what it is. You were going to defraud an elderly man with Alzheimer's and his family. That's elder abuse. That's fraud. Those are crimes, Mrs. Patterson. Jennifer looked up sharply. Crimes? Martin nodded. We're prepared to file charges with the district attorney. Elder financial abuse, fraud, possibly forgery, depending on how you obtained Bob's signature. You could be looking at prison time? But Bob signed the documents willingly, Jennifer said desperately. I didn't force him. You obtained his signature through deception, Patricia countered. You misrepresented the nature and scope of the power of attorney. That's fraud. You also conspired with Gregory Turner to defraud the Patterson family. We have emails proving coordination between you two. I watched Jennifer crumble. This wasn't part of her plan. She thought she was smarter than everyone. She thought she'd get away with it. Here's what's going to happen, Martin said, taking control of the meeting. First, you will immediately cease all communication with Gregory Turner and any representatives of Horizon Properties. Second, you will sign documents revoking any and all power of attorney related to Robert Patterson's estate. Third, you will provide a full accounting of any money you've received related to this scheme. And if I don't? Jennifer asked, but there was no fight left in her voice. Then we file criminal charges this afternoon, Patricia said. And we make sure every real estate board in the state knows what you did. Your career will be over. You'll be a convicted felon. And you'll go to prison. Jennifer was crying now, mascara running down her face. Please, I'll lose everything. You should have thought about that before you tried to steal from my family, I said coldly. Bob, please, she begged, reaching for me. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I made mistakes, but I pulled away from her touch. Mistakes? You had an affair. You lied to me for years. You tried to steal my father's property while he's dying. Those aren't mistakes, Jennifer. That's who you are. Martin pushed another set of documents across the table. These are divorce papers. You'll sign these too. Bob is keeping the house, his accounts, and all shared assets. You'll leave with what you brought into the marriage. Nothing more. That's not fair, Jennifer protested. I have rights. You have no rights, my mother said sharply. You're lucky we're giving you the option to avoid prison. Sign the papers or face the consequences. For a long moment, Jennifer just sat there, tears streaming down her face. Then slowly, she reached for the pen Martin offered her. One by one, she signed every document. The revocation of power of attorney, the divorce papers, a confession detailing her scheme. When she was done, Martin collected all the papers. You have 24 hours to move out of the house. Take only your personal belongings. Bob will have someone there to supervise. Jennifer looked at me one last time. I really did love you once, she said quietly. No, I replied. You didn't. You loved what I could give you. There's a difference. Jennifer moved out the next day. True to form, she tried to take more than she was entitled to, including some of my mother's jewelry she'd borrowed over the years. The supervisor Martin hired caught her packing it and made her leave it behind. When she was finally gone, I walked through the house we'd shared for 3 years. It felt empty, but not in a bad way. More like a weight had been lifted. The lies were gone. The deception was over. But there was still one more piece of business to handle. Gregory Turner, Marcus. My private investigator had done excellent work documenting Gregory's pattern of predatory real estate dealings. With Jennifer's signed confession detailing their conspiracy, we had everything we needed to not just stop the sale, but to potentially shut down his entire operation. Patricia filed a detailed complaint with the State Attorney General's office. She also contacted the families from Gregory's previous deals, the ones he'd settled out of court. Once they learned we had evidence of a pattern of behavior, several agreed to reopen their cases. Within a month, Gregory Turner was facing multiple lawsuits and a criminal investigation. His business license was suspended pending review. Horizon Properties LLC was effectively dead in the water. I heard through Marcus that Jennifer tried to contact Gregory when everything fell apart. He wouldn't take her calls. Their partnership, like their affair, had been purely transactional. When she became a liability instead of an asset, he dropped her without a second thought. There was a certain justice in that. They deserved each other. The divorce was finalized 90 days later. Jennifer didn't contest anything. She'd already consulted with several attorneys, and they'd all told her the same thing. She was lucky to walk away without criminal charges. Fighting would only make things worse for her. I heard she moved to California, started over with a new name and a new career. I didn't care. She was out of my life, and that was all that mattered. The months after Jennifer left were strange. On one hand, I felt free. The constant tension of living with a liar was gone. But on the other hand, I felt stupid. How had I not seen it? How had I missed the signs? My mother reminded me that this wasn't my fault. She was a professional con artist, Mom said. She targeted you because of the property. She studied you, learned how to manipulate you. That's not a failure on your part, Bob. That's calculated evil on hers. I started seeing a therapist to work through the betrayal. Dr. Sarah Winters helped me understand that trust isn't a weakness, and that Jennifer had exploited something good in me, not something wrong with me. You believed the best in someone you loved, Dr. Winters said. That's normal. That's healthy. What's not normal or healthy is what she did with that trust. Slowly, I started to heal. I spent more time at the Patterson property, working on repairs and maintenance my father could no longer do. The physical labor was therapeutic, fixing broken fence posts, pruning the orchard trees, repainting the old barn. Each task felt like I was reclaiming something Jennifer had tried to steal. Mom and I had Thanksgiving dinner on the property that year. We brought Dad from the facility for the afternoon. He didn't say much, and I wasn't sure how much he understood. But when we sat on the porch after dinner watching the sun set over the orchard, he smiled. Home, he said softly. Just that one word. Mom squeezed my hand, tears in her eyes. This was why we'd fought so hard. For these moments, for this connection to the past, for my father's peace in his final years. About 6 months after everything fell apart, I got a call from Patricia Chen. She had news about Gregory Turner's case. The state attorney general's office finished their investigation, she said. They found evidence of fraud going back almost 10 years. Multiple families were bilked out of properties. Gregory's facing serious prison time. Good, I said. He deserves it. There's more, Patricia continued. During the investigation, they discovered that Jennifer wasn't just his romantic partner. She'd worked with him on at least 3 previous schemes. Your family wasn't her first target, Bob. She has a history of marrying men with valuable family properties, then orchestrating sales with Gregory's company. I felt sick. So our entire relationship was a setup from the beginning? It appears so, Patricia said gently. Gregory would identify target properties and Jennifer would make contact with the families. She'd done this twice before. One of those previous husbands recognized her name in the news coverage and came forward. This revelation was somehow worse than everything else. Every moment of our relationship, from that first meeting at the wedding to our vows under the apple trees, had been a lie. I'd never known the real Jennifer at all. I'd been in love with a character she was playing. But Patricia had more news. Because of her involvement in multiple schemes, the DA is reconsidering the deal we made. They want to bring charges against her too. They think with the new evidence they can make a strong case for conspiracy to commit fraud, possibly as part of a criminal enterprise. What does that mean? I asked. It means Jennifer might be going to prison after all, Patricia said. The DA wants to know if you'd be willing to testify if it goes to trial. I didn't even have to think about it. Absolutely. The trial happened 8 months later. Gregory Turner tried to make a deal, but the prosecution had too much evidence. They didn't need his cooperation. The trial lasted 3 weeks, and I was on the stand for most of a day. Jennifer was there, sitting at the defense table next to Gregory. She looked different, harder. The mask she'd worn during our marriage was completely gone. When I testified about how she'd manipulated me, how she'd forged her way into my family, she showed no emotion, no regret, no shame. The prosecution presented our case first. My testimony, the emails, the documented meetings between Jennifer and Gregory. Then they brought in the other families Jennifer had targeted. A widower from Connecticut who'd lost his father's lake house. A woman from Vermont who'd nearly lost her family's farm. The pattern was clear. Jennifer would identify men with valuable family property. She'd accidentally meet them through mutual friends or at events. She'd start a relationship, gain their trust, marry them if necessary. Then she'd work with Gregory to engineer a sale, often exploiting family crises like illness or death. She'd collect her commission, stage a breakup or divorce, and disappear. Then she'd do it all again with a new identity and a new target. I'd been number 4. There had been 3 other men before me, 3 other families she'd nearly destroyed. But I was the one who'd caught her. I was the one who'd stopped her. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, they found both Jennifer and Gregory guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit fraud, elder financial abuse, wire fraud, and racketeering. The judge sentenced Gregory to 15 years in federal prison. He'd be almost 70 when he got out, his business empire destroyed, his reputation ruined. Jennifer got 12 years. As they led her away in handcuffs, she finally looked at me. For just a moment, I saw something in her eyes. Not remorse exactly. More like surprise that she'd finally been caught. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness. She was just a stranger now. A criminal who'd temporarily disrupted my life but hadn't broken me. 2 years have passed since the trial. My father passed away last spring, peacefully in his sleep at the memory care facility. We held his funeral on the Patterson property, under the apple trees he'd loved. Over 100 people came to pay their respects to a good man who'd been a pillar of his community. In his will, Dad left the property to me, with explicit instructions that it should never be sold outside the family. "This land is our legacy," he'd written in a lucid moment before the Alzheimer's took him completely. "Protect it for future generations, son. I plan to honor that wish. I've been fixing up the old house, making it livable again. I'm thinking about moving out there permanently, leaving the house I once shared with Jennifer behind. Too many bad memories there. Mom helps with the orchard now. We hired a local teenager to assist with the heavier work. Last fall, we had our first real harvest in years. We donated most of the apples to the community food bank, but we kept enough to make pies. Mom used Grandma's recipe. I've started dating again, though I take things much slower now. Dr. Winters says that's healthy, being cautious without being closed off. I've learned to recognize red flags I missed before. I've learned to trust my instincts when something feels off. Sometimes people ask me if I regret marrying Jennifer. It's a complicated question. I regret the pain she caused my family. I regret that my father's last years were clouded by her scheme. But I don't regret the lessons I learned. I learned that trust should be earned, not freely given. I learned that some people are very good at pretending to be someone they're not. I learned that documentation and evidence matter. And most importantly, I learned that standing up to betrayal, no matter how hard it is always worth it. The Patterson property stands today because I didn't give up, because my mother didn't give up, because we fought for what mattered. Jennifer tried to take everything from us, but she failed. The land my grandfather built is still here. The orchard still blooms every spring. The legacy continues. That's my revenge, really. Not that Jennifer went to prison, though that felt good too. My revenge is that she lost. She spent years planning, manipulating, scheming, and she failed. The family she tried to destroy is stronger than ever. The property she tried to steal is thriving. Sometimes on quiet evenings, I sit on the porch where Dad said home that one last time, and I feel at peace. Jennifer took a lot from me: time, trust, innocence. But she didn't take what mattered most. She didn't take my family's legacy. She didn't take my integrity. She didn't break me. And in the end, that's all the victory I need. If you enjoyed this story of betrayal and justice, make sure you're subscribed to Revenge Land. We share real stories of family drama and the sweet taste of revenge. Hit that subscribe button and I'll see you in the next story. Thanks for listening.